Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to bring my third report on the state of plans for the Ottiwell Simmons International Arbitration Center. Mr. Speaker, to remind, in 2017, the Bermuda Business Development Corporation originally proposed that the vacant property be converted into an international arbitration center. And in 2018, and in the 2018 speech from the throne, it was announced that this would be the direction of the government and that the building would be renamed the Ottiwell Simmons International Arbitration Center in honor of this most distinguished Bermudian. Mr. Speaker, although this facility is intended to serve as an international arbitration center that brings with the exposure and income for Bermuda on the macro level, the government's policy is that it must also serve as a mediation center for residents who may have minor disputes that, if handled here, result in a reduction in the number of cases heard by the courts or submitted to the Office of the Ombudsman. Upon investigation, it was discovered by our engineers that both the Allenhurst and the adjoining Valerie T. Scott buildings needed to be demolished. Mr. Speaker, in March this year, demolition of the Valerie T. Scott building was completed, with the demolition works to the Allenhurst building getting underway shortly thereafter, only to be delayed several months as a result of the COVID-19 virus. Once the shelter in place was lifted, the works recommenced and both sites are now cleared and ready for new construction. In my February 14th report to the House, I indicated that discussions were fairly well advanced towards developing a public-private partnership to build the center, and once there is an agreement, I will report further to this House. Mr. Speaker, in September last year, Bermudian attorney Mr. Kevin Bean introduced the ministry to Millhouse Engineering and Construction, a professional, full-service engineering and architectural firm located in downtown Chicago with several locations within the continental U.S. and international. Mr. Bean, who now serves as general counsel for Millhouse, spoke of their extensive experience in engineering, construction, and developing water and sewage systems around the world, felt that Bermuda could benefit from their expertise. Shortly thereafter, the chairman and CEO of Millhouse, Mr. Wilbur Millhouse III, along with Senior Vice President Mr. Frank Martin, visited Bermuda for initial introductions and discussions. Several meetings were held with our engineers and the executive management of the three quangos that fall under the ministry. Mr. Speaker, in December 2019, I, along with the Permanent Secretary, Randy Rochester, and Principal Water and Sewage Engineer, Tariq Christopher, paid a visit to the Millhouse headquarters in Chicago to discuss the master water and sewage plan for the country. And during these talks, it became evident that Millhouse, with its extremely diverse team of international engineers, architects, designers, planners, and project managers, could not only provide advice on the water and sewage plan, but other capital projects. One such project was the development of the Ottiwell Simmons Arbitration Center, which Millhouse proposed as a public-private partnership at no cost to the government. A memorandum of understanding was entered into by Millhouse Ministry, which delineated responsibilities of each during this initiative to ensure its ultimate success. Mr. Speaker, as part of the MOU, the ministry introduced Millhouse to the team at the Bermuda Business Development Agency, who in turn shared their research on arbitration centers globally. A local architect was engaged, and plans for the building were prepared based on the research of both parties. The result was a set of plans for a 5-story building tabled early in this session that includes, photographs of which were tabled earlier in this session, that includes meeting rooms, office space, retail space on the first floor in accordance with the city plan, a cafeteria, elevators, underground parking with private access for those wishing to remain discreet, to entertainment space on the balcony for casual negotiations or receptions. Mr. Speaker, the details of the financing of this project is at the final hurdle. The term sheet is still being reviewed by the Ministry of Finance, and as soon as we get the green light, the financing specifics of the project will likewise be shared. We anticipate an early response that will lead to construction beginning in December this year and delivery of a complete building 15 months later in March 2022. Mr. Speaker, the principals of Millhouse are expected on island next week for an official groundbreaking in the presence of Mr. Ottiwell Simmons and others involved in the project thus far. Mr. Speaker, this will be a world-class facility with the potential to put Bermuda on the map, as well as to encourage local lawyers to go into the arbitration field. And of course, it cannot be lost on anyone that this too will also provide jobs and economic stimulus in the country when it is most needed. Mr. Speaker, I am greatly excited by this project, as it is what public works should be doing, knocking down old buildings and building anew. I am convinced that Millhouse are the perfect team to build a relationship with to our mutual benefit. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.